and welcome. My name is Caitlin Coombs with energeticcity.ca, and in this series, I'm speaking with each of the candidates for the Prince George, Peace River, and Northern Rockies Member of Parliament seat in the 2025 Canadian federal election. We're asking questions posed by our readers about local, provincial, and federal topics. Today, I am joined by Bob Zimmer of the Conservative Party. Bob, how are you doing today?
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Let's jump right on. In the first question, what are your thoughts on Northern Health, and what is your party's plan on addressing healthcare funding, specifically the nursing shortage?
Yeah, so we part of our plan, we're continuing. We're completely, funding healthcare as we have in the past. One way we want to address the nurse shortage is we know there's a lot of immigrants that have come in with the qualifications to be doctors and nurses and other healthcare practitioners. And we want to recognize those credentials as soon as we can, so they'd have to qualify and write a test in Canada. But essentially, it's called the Blue Seal program. And there's been far too many people that even their taxi drivers or Uber drivers. Our leader, Pierre Poilievre, said, sometimes the best way to get a doctor now is just to call Uber because they're driving Uber cars instead of actually practicing as doctors and nurses. So that's one way to address it, and we just believe it's a good way to address some of these shortages.
What is your opinion on LNG in the region and expanding our markets to Asia?
That's a great question. I was just up in Fort Nelson this week and talked to a few people at the doorsteps, and compared, we absolutely support LNG. LNG Canada is a great project that's just coming to fruition now. We see that shipment of LNG just come in this week, where they're powering up the system essentially to do some tests and stuff. But to see that project finally getting off the ground is just amazing. And I don't know if most people watching this know, but all of the gas that goes in that pipeline that eventually arrives at LNG Canada comes from northeastern BC. Every single last bit of it. So no, I think we need to do more. In contrast to the current Liberal government and the former Prime Minister, who said there's no business case for LNG, we completely disagree. We think that's the way we're going to unlock our economy, is getting more of those resources to world markets that need and want them. And it's also a good way to reduce emissions because a lot of the emissions are coal, and we can reduce emissions in some cases by 50% just by replacing that coal-produced energy with LNG. So absolutely supportive, and we just need to do more. We need to do it more quickly as well.
All right. What is your response to tariffs and the future of our trade relations with the U.S.?
Yes, it's we believe they're unwarranted tariffs that President Trump has put on Canadians in Canada. They're unwarranted. We've had a great trade relationship before, but it's been rocky at different times. And it's imperative that we have a trade relationship, and then we keep on working on that trade relationship. We also believe that we need to support our Canadian workers that are affected by those Trump tariffs. And we'll create a Keeping Canadians Working Fund as a part of that. But I believe that we need to resolve these trade issues as soon as possible, and because it affects both of our economies quite dramatically. So whether it's softwood lumber or it's our fossil fuels or whatever we trade with our American friends, we need to work that out as soon as possible.
All right. And what's your opinion on the carbon tax?
Well, we've been against the carbon tax right from the start. Axe the tax is our motto. I've heard countless examples that we've been sent to us, actually. Again, from Fort Nelson were two examples. One shop was $2,000 to heat a shop per month. $700 of that was carbon tax. So, and we've heard that too, just folks trying to keep their homes warm. My former role as Shadow Minister for Northern Affairs and Arctic Sovereignty, we talked to many people up in the territories that said, look, we have to make a decision on whether we turn up the thermostat or we eat supper that night, or our kids. Some parents are going where they're feeding their kids, but they're not being fed themselves. We don't think it's it's the right focus. It's really penalizing Canadians just for staying warm in winter. You know, it's one thing for somebody like a Mark Carney or Justin Trudeau to have this plan that really aren't affected by it. But I've seen firsthand how Canadians are negatively affected by the carbon tax. And what the current prime minister is proposing, he said he's going to reduce or remove the retail carbon tax to consumers, but then apply it to industrial emitters. Well, we know that all those industries that are going to be applied this carbon tax now are just going to pass it on down to the consumer. So it's not an answer to it. We're going to axe the carbon tax to the consumer and carte blanche. We're going to axe the entire carbon tax because we just don't believe that's the way, especially in our country where we have so many resources around energy. It just stifles our ability to grow.
Okay. And what is your idea of the future of energy in our region?
Oh, I think the amount of resources that we had, even I think it was 6 or so years ago, we had estimates then that we had enough natural gas to last 200 plus years at export levels, what we see now. So we've got lots of natural gas and lots of fossil fuels. We even have clean coal too that we produce for steelmaking and manufacturing. I think our energy ability in the north, especially northeastern BC, is I would argue second to none in the country. The fact is that we produce the natural gas that goes to LNG Canada, and it's going to need a lot of natural gas to keep those customers satisfied. So I only see upside. When countries like Norway can produce oil and natural gas and still have a lot of respect for being an environmentally responsible country, that's Canada and Canadians. The way we produce our resources is second to none. It's the gold standard in the world. Again, we should be just doing more of it.
And how will you make housing more affordable for seniors?
Yes. So we have a couple of ways that we're going to help seniors. Um, the first is to allow seniors to earn up to $34,000 tax free, and it's a boost of 10,000 more than present to allow seniors to keep RSPs growing for an extra 2 years, and while keeping the age of retirement at 65 for GIS, OAS, and CPP. Plus, we brought in a way to keep housing costs low as well. So axing the federal sales tax on new homes up to $1.3 million is one way. But another way is to also have people save up to $100,000 per house, depending on the jurisdiction. And it depends on whether that jurisdiction removes red tape to build houses. We've seen in some cases, I think it's Vancouver, that $1.6 million on average per house is just red tape, just administrative costs. And so our leader has challenged that he will match for every dollar, he will match it with 50% or 50 cents reduction in costs if they follow through and reduce their own administrative costs, which will bring down housing costs for seniors in those jurisdictions. So there's a few ways it's going to happen, but again, it's going to be a great challenge for these municipalities to jump onto, because we just know the housing costs are exploding in some of these urban areas, and they're not cheap even in rural areas. But we're going to do our part to reduce those prices.
Okay. And what is your opinion on the Firearms Act?
Well, firearms is something that I'll say it more in a general sense. Is all along, the Liberals have been focused on law-abiding firearms owners and who we call Grandpa Joe. They're trying to go after Grandpa Joe when Grandpa Joe wasn't the problem. He isn't the one causing crime on our streets. So why take away his firearm needlessly and spend the money to take away his firearms? There's estimates. Gary Mauser has proposed that it could be between 2.7 and to 6.7 billion dollars to confiscate firearms, and this was a few years ago when the list was a lot shorter. So we are proposing that instead of spending the money taking away firearms from law-abiding people like Grandpa Joe, is to put that money towards things like scanning all containers coming across the border, dealing with those illegal firearms coming from the US into Canada, and tackling what the real problem is, and those illegal guns getting into the hands of criminals that are killing kids on our streets. So we have a plan, instead of tackling who isn't the problem, to actually tackling what the real problem is.
Okay, sounds good. And final question, why should people vote for you?
That's a good question. I guess it goes back to when I first started this job. Why are you doing this? And I said, well, it's to make a difference. And over the last number of years, we have made a difference. We've stuck up for, it depends. There's different levels. So there's in Ottawa, we stand up for Canadians in general, but the issues around firearms and natural resource development and things like that. And my role as shadow minister for Northern Affairs and Arctic Sovereignty, we've stood up for Northerners in those roles too, and really brought their issues to the floor of the House in Ottawa. And then locally, and that's who elects me and sends me to Ottawa. It's the same thing. Every day, our office helps people with it's either passport issues or immigration issues or tax issues, or you name it. We can. Our motto is to help people in our office, and we've done that a lot. And we just are asking the voters to give us another chance. I say it this way: every 4 years I have to reapply for my job. And again, my trust is that because we've done a good job in the office and really brought local people's voice to Ottawa, that they'll give me a nod and put an X beside my name on that ballot. So no, it's to make a difference, and I believe we've done that. We just want to continue it. We have a lot to fix after 10 years of a lost decade, we were calling it. The country's gone backwards in a lot of ways, and now we need some time to go fix it.
All right, wonderful. Thank you very much for
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate the time.
absolutely.